military ID. First Sergeant Walter Keller, born 1944. That makes you 38. Must have fought in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What was it like?
It's gross.
At first, Cheers was TV's perfect family. Then things started going wrong. Secret feuds turned deadly serious. Stars began disappearing without explanation. Some vanished overnight, their careers never recovering. Others were replaced so quickly that fans barely had time to ask why. 4 decades later, the shocking truth about these mysterious departures is finally coming to light. And it's not what anyone expected. Cheers is one of the greatest TV shows ever. But it didn't seem that way at first. When it aired in 1982, the show was a total flop. It ranked last out of all 77 primetime shows that year. Most shows that fail this badly get canceled right away. But something surprising happened. Brandon Tartikoff, who was in charge of NBC's entertainment, decided to take a big risk. He didn't cancel it. He believed in the show, even though the ratings were awful. That risk paid off in a big way. By the 3rd season, Cheers became one of the most popular shows in America. It stayed in the top 10 for 8 years in a row. At its peak, during the 1990 to 1991 season, over 21 million people watched every episode. Then, in 1993, when the show ended, the final episode became a huge deal. Almost 94 million people watched it. That made it the second most-watched TV finale ever, right behind MASH. Imagine that! Almost 40% of the U.S. population was watching when Sam Malone closed the bar for the last time. Even after it ended, Cheers stayed popular. In 2013, 20 years later, it was still one of the most-watched reruns on TV. About 3.9 million people were still watching each episode. That kind of staying power is rare for any show, proving just how special it was. The cast was a big reason for the show's success. Ted Danson played Sam Malone, the bar owner and former baseball player. It's hard to believe, but Ted wasn't the first choice for the role. The producers wanted someone else, like Fred Dryer, and even filmed a version of the pilot with another actor, William Devane, just in case. But Ted turned out to be perfect for the role. Shelley Long played Diane Chambers, Sam's love interest. She was smart and a little stuck-up, which made her the perfect opposite to Sam. People thought Shelley might actually have a PhD in real life because of how well she played Diane. But the truth is, Shelley never finished college. She left Northwestern University after her 2nd year. Rhea Perlman was Carla Tortelli, the sassy waitress. Rhea almost gave up acting before Cheers. She wanted to become a teacher, but her boyfriend, and now husband, Danny DeVito, convinced her to try out for the show. Lucky for us, she did. Then there was Norm Peterson, played by George Wendt. Norm became a fan favorite with his funny entrances and one-liners, but originally he was only supposed to be a small character. George's natural humor and likability made the writers expand his role. John Ratzenberger played Cliff Clavin, the know-it-all mailman. His character wasn't even in the original script. During his audition, John came up with the idea for a mailman who always thought he was smarter than everyone else. The producers loved it, and Cliff became a permanent part of the show. Nicholas Colasanto played Coach Ernie Pantuso on Cheers, and he made the character unforgettable. He joined the show in 1982 when he was 58 years old. Coach was Sam Malone's old baseball coach who became a bartender at the bar. He was kind, funny, and a little clueless, and people loved him for it. He had a way of saying silly things in a completely serious way, which made everyone laugh. Coach also listened to people's problems and made them feel better, which made him important to the other characters and to the audience watching at home. Ted Danson, who played Sam Malone, said that Colasanto was the heart of the show. Fans and critics agreed, and his chemistry with the cast was a big reason for the show's success. He worked so well with everyone, especially Ted Danson, Shelley Long, and Rhea Perlman. He was nominated for an Emmy 3 times for playing Coach, even one last time after he passed away. Fans loved him so much that they gave him a Best Supporting Actor award after his death in 1985. That showed how much people cared about his work. But Colasanto was struggling with health problems during the show, especially in the 3rd season. He had heart disease because of years of heavy drinking, even though he had been sober since 1976. By the 3rd season, his condition got worse. He started losing weight, and it became hard for him to remember his lines. The cast and crew did everything they could to help him. They wrote his lines on the walls and other spots on the set where the cameras couldn't see. They also gave him shorter lines to make it easier for him. Everyone wanted to make sure he could keep playing Coach, even as his health got worse. Things got really bad after the 1984 holiday break. Colasanto ended up in the hospital because of fluid in his lungs, which was caused by his heart problems. His doctors told him not to go back to work, but he kept most of his struggles private. Even though he tried to hide it, his castmates noticed how much he was struggling. He didn't look well, and they knew his health might not improve. The last full episode he filmed was called Cheerio Cheers in late 1984, but his very last scene was a short moment in another episode called Rescue Me, which had been filmed earlier. On February 12, 1985, Nicholas Colasanto passed away from a heart attack at home. He was only 61. The news was devastating for the cast and crew. They canceled that night's taping because everyone was so heartbroken. A memorial service was held, and hundreds of people came to honor him. The show honored Colasanto in many ways. In the next season, they wrote Coach's death into the story, showing how much he mattered to everyone. Years later, in the final episode of Cheers, they gave him a beautiful tribute. Sam Malone walks over to a picture of Geronimo hanging on the bar's wall and straightens it. That picture had belonged to Colasanto and was put on the set after he died. When Woody Harrelson joined Cheers in 1985 as Woody Boyd, the show had just lost Coach, a character everyone loved. The writers introduced Woody in a way that was funny and memorable. In the episode Birth, Death, Love, and Rice, Woody came to Cheers looking for Coach, who he thought was his pen pal. But there was a twist. They hadn't been writing letters to each other. They'd just been sending pens back and forth. This moment made it clear Woody was simple and sweet, much like Coach, but still his own person. After learning about Coach's death, Woody took over as the new bartender. He quickly became part of the Cheers family with his innocent personality and big-hearted charm. He reminded people of Coach, but wasn't a copy of him. Woody's literal way of thinking often led to hilarious moments. One time, someone ordered a screaming Viking cocktail, and Woody actually tried to find a Viking in the bar. Fans loved his clueless but lovable nature. Woody Harrelson played the character so well that he was nominated for an Emmy 5 times and won in 1989. Years later, he even appeared on Frasier as Woody Boyd, and people still adored him. Meanwhile, Shelley Long played Diane Chambers on Cheers, starting in 1982. Diane was a waitress with big dreams, always acting smart and fancy. She was the perfect match for Ted Danson's Sam Malone, who was the opposite of her, laid back and rough around the edges. Their relationship was full of drama, teasing, and chemistry. It was what made people keep watching. Sam was a former baseball player who loved women and fun, while Diane was all about books and culture. They were opposites, and that made their fights and romantic moments so interesting. In one famous episode, an argument between them ended with a kiss, which fans still remember. Shelley's acting was so good that she won an Emmy Award in 1983, right after the first season. It was a big deal, because Cheers wasn't very popular at first. Over 5 seasons, Diane's character grew a lot. At the beginning, she was just a student forced to work in a bar after her fiancé left her. But slowly, she became part of the bar's family. Her personality, with all her arguments and romance, made the show really funny. By the mid-1980s, Shelley was earning $450,000 per episode, which was huge at the time. But later, her character started losing some of her best lines, which were given to Frasier Crane, played by Kelsey Grammer. By the 5th season, Sam and Diane got engaged. But in the season finale, Diane shocked everyone by leaving Sam at the altar to chase her dream of being a writer. That episode had 24.4 million viewers. When Shelley decided to leave Cheers in 1987, it surprised everyone. The show was super popular, and Shelley was making a lot of money. Shelley had only signed a 5-year contract when she joined Cheers, so maybe she always planned to leave. She also said playing Diane for so long was tough. In an interview, she admitted Diane was annoying, and even she started to mix her real self with the character. That made her realize it was time to move on. When fans heard Shelley was leaving, they couldn't believe it. The Sam and Diane story was such a big part of the show. People wondered if Cheers could survive without her. The news was everywhere, and even newspapers like the New York Times wrote about it. It became one of the biggest entertainment stories of the year. Fans were sad, but they didn't know the reason behind her leaving. Shelley Long left Cheers in 1987 because she wanted to spend more time with her family, especially her daughter Juliana, born in 1985. At the time, her work schedule on the show was incredibly demanding, with 14 to 16-hour days, 5 days a week, for 9 months every year. This left her with very little time to spend with her young daughter during important years of her childhood. Long later explained in an interview that she wanted to be with her family more, and that this decision was important for her. The long hours also affected her health, leading to exhaustion and frequent migraines by the 5th season. She thought about leaving for nearly 2 years before making the final choice. Around the same time, many actresses in Hollywood were stepping back from their careers to focus on family. Meg Ryan and Demi Moore made similar choices in 1987, sparking discussions about work-life balance for women in entertainment. Long's departure was a big deal for the Cheers team. The creators were unsure if the show could continue without her, so they filmed 3 different endings for her final episode, I Do, Adieu. When it aired on May 7, 1987, over 24 million households watched, proving just how much people loved her character, Diane Chambers. Shelley Long also left because she dreamed of becoming a big movie star. She had already shown promise in films like Night Shift, 1982, and Irreconcilable Differences, 1984, for which she earned a Golden Globe nomination. Inspired by Mary Tyler Moore's successful transition from TV to movies, Long believed she could do the same. Long later admitted she had been idealistic about her chances in the film industry and learned how difficult the transition could be. Behind the scenes, there were also tensions with her co-stars. Her relationship with Ted Danson, who played Sam Malone, was especially strained. Their on-screen chemistry was amazing, but off-screen they often clashed. Long liked to spend time discussing her character with writers, while Danson preferred a more relaxed approach. This difference caused delays during filming, with episodes featuring Sam and Diane taking longer to shoot and costing more money. Other cast members, like Rhea Perlman acknowledged there was some friction, but they also said it wasn't as bad as people thought. One surprising claim came from Kelsey Grammer, who played Fraser Crane. In his memoir, he wrote that Long tried to get him removed from the show, accusing her of asking writers to cut his jokes. Long denied this, saying it was a misunderstanding. The tensions peaked during the filming of her final episode. She and Danson had a big argument right before shooting the scene where their characters decide not to marry. The real-life conflict made the scene even more emotional, turning it into one of the show's most memorable moments. When Shelley Long left Cheers after 5 seasons, it was a big problem for the show. The producers knew they had to find someone great to replace her, or the show might not survive. They looked at over 100 actresses to find the right person. Even famous names like Sharon Stone and Kim Cattrall were considered, but no one seemed like the perfect fit. Some people even said there was a Cheers curse, and actresses worried that taking the role might ruin their careers. Things got so desperate that the creators thought about getting rid of Sam Malone entirely. They had an idea where Sam would leave to sail around the world and let someone new take over the bar. But they scrapped that idea because it didn't feel right. The network, NBC, was also very nervous. They wanted to see the first 3 episodes with the new character before they agreed to keep the show going. This kind of demand was rare for a show that was already so successful. It showed how much pressure everyone was feeling. Kirstie Alley wasn't even on their radar at first. She only got the chance because Carl Reiner, a famous director, had worked with her on a movie and recommended her. Funny enough, Alley didn't even know much about Cheers when she auditioned. She asked, "Is this that show about the bar?" But she made a great impression and got the part just 2 weeks before filming started for the next season. The writers didn't have much time to figure out who her character, Rebecca Howe, was going to be. At first, Rebecca was written as a strong, tough businesswoman. She was completely different from Diane, who was a smart, artsy waitress with big dreams of becoming a writer. Rebecca was all about climbing the corporate ladder and getting ahead. But after a few episodes, the writers realized that Alley was really good at physical comedy and showing vulnerability. So Rebecca's character changed. She became more neurotic, funny, and even desperate at times. Rebecca and Sam's relationship was very different from Diane and Sam's. Diane and Sam were always in a fiery, unpredictable romance. Rebecca, on the other hand, wasn't interested in Sam and always rejected him. This created new kinds of jokes and situations. Rebecca also had a running gag where she was obsessed with marrying a rich man. In one hilarious episode, she even considered marrying a ventriloquist's dummy because she thought the puppeteer was proposing. Rebecca fit into the group at the bar much more than Diane ever did. Diane often acted like she was better than everyone else, but Rebecca became one of the gang. She joined in on their schemes and jokes, which made the show more focused on all the characters instead of just one central romance. Rebecca's story ended very differently from Diane's. Diane left the bar to chase her dream of becoming a writer, always leaving the door open for her to come back. Rebecca, on the other hand, ended up marrying a plumber, which was funny because she spent years trying to marry a wealthy man. It showed how much she had changed over the series. When Kirstie Alley joined Cheers, it gave the show a fresh start. A lot of people thought the show wouldn't be as good without Diane, but Rebecca brought new energy and opened up different kinds of stories. Instead of focusing on Sam and Diane's romance, the show started to explore more stories about all the characters. Woody Harrelson's character, Woody Boyd, became a bigger part of the show and even won an Emmy for his performance. Sam's character also changed. Without Diane, the show looked more closely at his flaws, like his womanizing. They even tackled the topic of his sex addiction, which was a bold move for a comedy show at the time. Rebecca's corporate background also added new kinds of comedy, like her crush on her boss, Evan Drake, or the time she got stuck in his office closet for a whole weekend. When Nicholas Colasanto and Shelley Long left Cheers, people thought the show might not survive. Everyone worried it would lose its magic. Producer Ken Devine said people were scared for their jobs, and even Ted Danson, the lead actor, admitted he was nervous. He wondered if viewers would still care about the show without the famous on-screen relationship between his character, Sam, and Long's character, Diane. But the show didn't just survive. It became even more popular. At first, the ratings dropped a little after Long left in Season 5, but soon they shot back up. When Kirstie Alley joined as Rebecca Howe, the show found new energy. It even became the #1 show in America during her time. The writers came up with fresh stories, and they focused more on the other characters, like Norm, Cliff, Carla, and Frasier. This made the show feel different, but still just as funny and lovable as before. The awards kept rolling in, too. Even after losing Colasanto and Long, Cheers was still winning Emmys. It earned 117 nominations over its run, and won 28 times. The show won the Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series 4 times, twice after Long left, in 1989 and 1991. This proved it could stay great, even after big changes. The actors also got a lot of praise. Ted Danson had been nominated for an Emmy every year since 1983, and after Long's departure, he finally won twice, in 1990 and 1993. Kirstie Alley also made her mark, winning an Emmy in 1991 for her role as Rebecca Howe. Woody Harrelson, who joined the cast after Colasanto's death, was nominated several times for his role as the goofy but lovable bartender, Woody. Kelsey Grammer, playing Frasier, became a bigger part of the show after Long left and earned Emmy nominations too. The writers worked hard to keep the show fresh and funny. They brought in new ideas while staying true to what made Cheers special. Fans loved the mix of heartfelt moments and clever humor, and the new dynamics kept the show exciting. Shelley Long made a bold choice in 1987 when she left Cheers at the height of its success. Many people thought it was a bad idea and called it career suicide, but she wanted to try her luck in movies. At first, things looked good. She starred with Bette Midler in Outrageous Fortune. The movie made $52.8 million, which was decent. But then came two big disappointments: Hello Again in 1987 and Troop Beverly Hills in 1989. Troop Beverly Hills did especially poorly, earning just $8.5 million while costing $18 million to make. Surprisingly, her biggest success after Cheers wasn't in a serious role, but as Carol Brady in the Brady Bunch movie in 1995. It was a funny take on the old TV show and a big hit, making $46.6 million. Fans loved her so much that she played the role again in a very Brady sequel in 1996 and a TV movie, The Brady Bunch, in the White House in 2002. On TV, Shelley didn't have much luck with new shows. Two sitcoms she starred in, Good Advice and Kelly Kelly, were canceled after just one season, but she found success in guest roles. She returned as Diane Chambers in Frasier several times between 1994 and 2001, earning an Emmy nomination in 1996. Later, she got a new burst of fame playing Dee Dee Pritchett on Modern Family. She appeared in 8 episodes from 2009 to 2018, introducing her to a younger generation and reminding everyone how funny she could be. Woody Harrelson had one of the most amazing journeys after joining Cheers. He started in 1985, replacing Nicholas Colasanto, and had almost no acting experience at the time. But by the time the show ended in 1993, Woody was a star. While still on Cheers, he got his first big movie role in White Men Can't Jump, 1992, where he starred with Wesley Snipes. The movie was a hit, making $90.8 million worldwide. Then, in 1996, Woody proved he could do serious acting with his role in The People vs. Larry Flynt. He played the controversial publisher of Hustler magazine and got an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. After Cheers, Woody kept picking bold and interesting roles. He starred in the wild and violent Natural Born Killers in 1994, the hilarious bowling comedy Kingpin in 1996, and the serious war movie The Thin Red Line in 1998. His willingness to try different things made him stand out. Later, he reached even greater heights. He got another Oscar nomination for The Messenger in 2009 and a third one for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri in 2017. Woody also joined huge movie franchises, playing Haymitch in the Hunger Games series and a villain in the Planet of the Apes movies. In 2014, he returned to TV with True Detective, which earned him an Emmy nomination. The cast of Cheers all had different experiences after the show. Kirstie Alley joined in 1987 to replace Shelley Long and became a huge star. She played Rebecca Howe, a role that won her an Emmy and a Golden Globe. After Cheers, she starred in the popular movie Look Who's Talking and had her own TV show, Veronica's Closet. But like many of her co-stars, she found it hard to escape the shadow of Cheers. Kelsey Grammer, who played Frasier Crane, had the most successful career after the show. His character got a spin-off, Frasier, which ran for 11 seasons and won him 4 Emmys. The success of Frasier made Kelsey a TV legend. George Wendt, who played Norm Peterson, became famous because of Cheers. But after the show, he struggled to find roles as successful as Norm. However, he found a new path on Broadway, acting in musicals like Hairspray and Elf, the musical. Rhea Perlman, who played the sassy waitress Carla, also had trouble finding roles as big as her part on Cheers. She won 4 Emmys for playing Carla, but later focused on writing children's books. She published her first novel, Otto Undercover, in 2006. John Ratzenberger, who played Cliff Clavin, surprised everyone by becoming one of Pixar's most successful voice actors. He voiced Ham in Toy Story and characters in every Pixar movie since. His work has been part of movies that made over $14 billion worldwide. Shelley Long came back to Cheers for the final episode in 1993, and it was a big surprise. She had left the show in 1987, so no one expected her return as Diane Chambers. Everything about it was kept a secret. Even her scenes were filmed separately from the rest of the cast on April 7, 1993, after another episode was finished. The studio audience didn't know anything about it until the finale aired. The last episode, called One for the Road, aired on May 20, 1993, and millions of people tuned in. It had 42.4 million viewers, making it one of the most watched finales ever, second only to MASH. Shelley's role wasn't small. She played a big part in the 98-minute episode, which focused on Sam and Diane's relationship. At first, they both pretended to have fake spouses, but then they got back together and even decided to marry. However, the story didn't give them a fairy tale ending, surprising fans with a twist instead. Behind the scenes, her return wasn't easy. Ted Danson admitted years later, in 2024, that he was unsure about working with her again. He said they sometimes found it hard to be in the same room. But when they were on screen together, their chemistry was still strong. It reminded everyone why Sam and Diane's love story was such a key part of the show's success. After the show ended, the Cheers cast reunited a few times, and fans always loved seeing them together again. One of the most memorable reunions was in 2012 for the show's 30th anniversary. The creators, James Burrows, Glenn Charles, and Les Charles, hosted a private dinner with the cast. During this event, Ted Danson gave a heartfelt speech about Shelley Long. He told her that her character, Diane Chambers, was the reason Cheers became so successful. His words showed how much respect the cast still had for her, even after so many years. The most recent reunion happened in 2024 at the ATX Television Festival. Ted Danson, John Ratzenberger, and George Wendt joined the creators for this special event. This reunion celebrated 30 years since the finale aired, showing how much people still love the show.